Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Irving City Council's work session for March 12, 2026. Pleasure to have everyone with us today. Do we have any residents who would like to speak, Shanae?
Yes, we do. We have one, and that is Gretchen Broche. And Gretchen, you have 3 minutes to speak. I don't think the...
Thank you, sir. Because y'all are intimidating people. Very nice individually, but dividing up the fence here, it makes it scary. My name is Gretchen Broche. I live at 2804 Lago Vista Loop and have lived there for many, many, many years. So Irving is my home. We came here when I was in high school. So I am very concerned of what's happening to our city, especially with the short-term rentals. I am on the board of our homeowners association, so when things are going on, people call me. And I'm like, you can call the report of concern and tell them what you see, but again, people are intimidated or they just don't want to do it. What I found out from one of our residents, he was suspicious of a house that was across the street from him because every night at 10:30, cars started pulling in and parking, just doubling, covering up the whole circle there. And they all came in, they were all men in uniforms from the airport, like they were airline pilots or something. So he started using his technical ability and started looking on Facebook and found that there is a website when you're bored, if you're ever bored, look at Crash Pads of Irving, Texas. These are not just short-term rentals. These are people renting out beds. And when I looked at it, and we could find the house, but they're smart enough, they don't put an address, they don't put a phone number. And we knew which house it was because of the pictures. We were able to decide where it was. And it was that house. And when you look at this one, it's right on the first part of the website, and it has 9 pictures, like a collage, and it shows all the bunk beds with numbers on them, and says we especially work with airport personnel. Now, that's fine, but I don't want to live next to a hotel where every night there's somebody new there, and who knows what's going on with trafficking the way it is. I did call code, and I got one response that was, we don't have enough information. Send us what you saw on Facebook. I said, I don't know how to do that. I said, let me come up and talk to you. So I talked to the ladies at the front desk. Nobody would come forward other than the receptionist, and she took my phone and showed the people, and then I have not heard anything since. But when I saw and then talked to David, too, that y'all were going to be talking about the short-term rentals, I know that they need a license to have one in Irving, but these people do not. Most of them, they said, when I was reading the information, they said to fax them when you want to stay, and they give you the information of how to pay for it. So it makes it
30
difficult.
seconds left.
And I don't know how, but please, folks, don't let this happen to Irving. If you see how many houses are on this site, it's unbelievable. And we want to keep our city safe. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris, do we have a city operations update?
Yes, sir. Last month on ICTN, April.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. April Reiling, Director of Communications. Before we roll this video for the month of March, I'd like to mention to you all that this will be your last time that you hear Thomas Gandy in our last month on ICTN videos. He has joined the Irving Convention Center and Visitors Bureau, Mara's team, and is going to be fully engaged on that side of the City of Irving shop. So we're excited for his move, and we are definitely going to miss him and working on replacing him, but I did want to mention that to you all. So with that, please roll the last month on ICTN for the month of February.
Your ICTN team produced 41 videos in the month of February.
Without the early recognition and quick actions of Irving Fire Department Medic's 12 Engine 12 crews, this patient would have been part of that 90%.
So the value is just patient tracking. We'll be able to keep up with everyone that is on scene that's injured.
They are highlighting African Americans just here in North Texas to include 4 ladies that came from the Bear Creek community.
The history is rich. It's an opportunity just for your culture to come out and just celebrate how it has evolved over time.
The legislative officer is that critical link between the residents of the city and our partners in Austin, in Washington, and in the broader region.
For families who like to go beyond the book and exploring topics with their kids, we have Little Steamer backpacks.
It's a cabaret show, so we are a very short string of marionettes, so we get to interact with the guests.
One day it can be like it's a castle, next day it's a spaceship.
So good. I was not expecting that. A watercolor. It's lovely.
These young competitors test their abilities in a number of athletic endeavors, like mountain climbing, bowling, bopping penguins.
Stay up to date by subscribing to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/the City of Irving.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a proclamation for some representatives from the police department. I think Lieutenant Williams and McBride. I'm not sure who else is joining me as well. Come on up and join us here. You'll line up here and I'll. Okay. One of the challenges we're facing in the community today is the effect of the fentanyl in our area. So we have a proclamation for Overdose Awareness and Prevention Month. Whereas, driven largely by the prolific fentanyl, the overdose crisis is a public health emergency that possesses a grave threat to the safety and well-being of our community. And whereas the City of Irving is committed to demonstrating our dedication to actions, awareness, and community participation to comprehensively address the dangers of opioids. Excuse me, ensuring the health and safety of every resident. And whereas fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid often found in counterfeit pills and other illicit substances, making it essential that our community remains vigilant in identifying the signs of overdose and the presence of lethal drugs in our neighborhoods and online spaces. And whereas through proactive actions, we support the enforcement of laws that hold trafficking to lethal substances accountable through increased awareness. We empower parents, students, and other representatives to recognize and report serious activities and overdose symptoms. And through strategic partnerships, we bridge the gap between healthcare providers, law enforcement, and recovering advocate groups. And whereas 2026 marks a renewal dedication to the comprehensive pillar of prevention, education, treatment, and recovery support, as we work towards the future where no individual is lost to this tragedy of the drug overdose. Now, therefore, I, Rick Stouffer, the Mayor of the City of Irving, and the Irving City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Overdose Awareness and Prevention Month in Irving, Texas, and call upon residents to educate themselves through resources provided by the DEA's One Pill Can Kill campaign, support local initiatives dedicated to overdose prevention and recovery safety, disposal of medicines at the National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, located on or a yearly drop box, located around on yearly drop boxes. So this is really something that we are seeing more and more within our community. These gentlemen have dedicated themselves to being making us aware of all the things that are going on out there, and they're asking that the community get involved. When you see things like this, please report it so that we can get our arms around it and get it off the street as fast as possible. So congratulations, guys.
So extremely proud of the investigators who are working on this. This is truly a department-wide initiative. Investigators within numerous sections of the police department have dedicated a lot of time and effort, and they're doing an outstanding job. So I'm extremely proud of all of the work that they have done, and they're definitely having an impact in the fentanyl crisis that is occurring throughout not only our nation but here in our city. So outstanding job.
The next item on our agenda is the Irving Community Action Network Operations Update. Kyle,
You want me here or you want me there?
you can come up there.
You want me there?
Kyle, we appreciate you being with us today.
I appreciate y'all reaching out and asking about what we're doing at ICANN. Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Taylor, and Sinead, what do I have to say? I forgot. No, I serve on the executive committee for ICANN, Urban Community Action Network. I also serve on the Agency Council for North Texas Food Bank, the Agency Council for Habitat for Humanity, the Agency Council for Texas Housing Coalition. So I'm uniquely qualified to talk about what we're doing at the grassroots level to help those folks that are in need. I want to talk first and thank y'all first for what y'all have done regarding allocating dollars out of the operating budget to the agencies that have received that money. We've made a huge difference in the lives of people. So what I want to do is just kind of talk about a 30,000-foot level as what we're doing. I just got through having a 2-hour meeting with Catholic Charities with Tracy and with Sarah over there about some things that we need to do different and look at. But what we've been able to do first at ICANN, it's changed the makeup and the understanding of how ICANN is supposed to work in our city. For those of us that have been around for a while and understand that ICANN, for a long time, we did not work very well together. We were siloed. We wanted to be the hero and have our name on the wall as the one that found the solution. Through work with the executive committee, especially with myself, Michelle Flores, and Bader Scott and White, we've been able to change that conversation into how do we solve problems? How do we help the elected body and the government body fix problems and help take care of our residents? So one of the first things that we have done is we've worked with it's created the Homeless Subcommittee. Homeless Subcommittee has made a lot of grounds. For those of you that may not remember being around when we did the Homeless Task Force, that did not go very well. The first meeting we didn't handle that very well the first meeting. This task force led by Lana with Many Helping Hands has begun to really make some dents and some progress into things that we're looking at that have been concerns for y'all. Especially as we've started forming more relationships with Catholic Charities, who's now a member of ICANN, Family Gateway, who's now a member of ICANN, Level Pathways, who's now a member of ICANN, Irving Cares, who's a member of ICANN. So those of and some other just individual communities, IBC Church, Christ Church, who do a lot of work in the Inclement Weather Shelter, So we're starting to gather some information and some data with the help through Catholic Charities and their capacity, Irving Cares, and Many Helping Hands. Start to collect some information on being successful. And I see you've got a You got a presentation lady on homeless prevention, so I won't spend a lot of time in that, but just to date from Tracy Woodbridge from Catholic Charities, we've put 392 people in the CAS system. The key thing is we've house diverted 8. So we're starting to see, we've got 14 Irving Cares enrolled in the diversion program. We realize the diversion program is working. So we've now started our own small diversion program as a pilot study to start moving folks out of extended stays. Because we know extended stays is where we're seeing some of the growth in our homeless population. So we're looking at how we can work with extended stays and the apartment complexes to be able to get people off the street. We have a meeting with child care folks because we know one of the challenges of folks becoming homeless is not being able to afford child care. So we have a meeting with 9 different child care providers across the city in a sit-down location to talk about how we can provide child care for those folks that may be between jobs or just need the ability when time gets tough for somebody to offset 6 weeks of child care. 56% of the people we're seeing at Irving Cares now are single female head of household with kids, and so that is something that we have not ever done before that we're now starting to work on. The other thing that I know John Block's really going to like, because we're working really, really hard on getting everybody on one uniform database. One for feeding, one for homelessness, so we have an understanding and can paint a really big, good picture for y'all as to where we're seeing challenges. And I'm going to use food as an example. North Texas Food Bank just came out with their feeding report on their zip code data. Let's take 75063, food insecure people, 6,580. That's a 14.47% food insecurity rate in 75063. Right now, the feeding sites are only reaching 1.21% of those. We're actually missing 98.79% of those folks needing food in 75063. So evidently, we're missing 1.247 million meals a year in that area code. ICANN has taken it upon themselves because I have some questions about those numbers. I have some concern about those numbers. So we have formed a food insecurity committee to where now we are going to anybody that does any kind of feeding site that's outside of North Texas Food Bank, combining them with North Texas Food Bank to find out what this number really is. So what we're trying to do now is gather and find out who's doing feeding, who's not doing feeding, how they're doing feeding, how they're not doing feeding. Are we keeping the people who are getting that food safe? Are there things that need to be done to ensure that those folks that are getting fed are being protected? Second thing is, doing a lot of work with North Texas Food Bank is if you're a feeding site and you're not offering wraparound services, all you're doing is enabling people to stay poor. Food is a gateway to being able to become and lift yourself out of poverty. It's an introductory place to agencies. So ICANN has been working with smaller folks that do food pantry feedings, who just do food, to get them up to speed to be able to do wraparound services. If somebody's coming to a food bank, they're struggling with something. Is it their job? Is it their way they manage their money? If you're not doing wraparound services and offering a way to get them higher up Maslow's ladder of needs, you're not helping anybody, in my opinion. You're allowing them to stay where they're at. Now, you're not going to save every starfish, but we've got to start working with to where if you're providing food, then you've got to be able to either introduce somebody or to do wraparound services. That's why we've been working so hard as I can to make sure Catholic Charities gets all the mobile feeding sites that they need, because they do wraparound services. They provide financial literacy. They provide diversion housing. They provide rental assistance. It's getting them introduced and using food as a doorbell to get them into services they need so they can become self-sufficient. That is an absolute and complete change of philosophy that's been done in the social service areas for a long, long time. If you know, any time that there's an emergency, North Texas Food Bank loves to do pop-up sites and take pictures of how many meals they're putting out into society and into the community. But if you're providing meals, what are you doing 3 or 4 weeks down the road to get them out of your line? And that's a change in philosophy that ICANN is working with and that we're trying to change. I spent 6 or 7 days down at Inclement Weather Shelter. I'm now serve on the board of Life Change Housing, which runs Inclement Weather Shelters here in Irving. We were able to get it worked a lot smoother than it has in the past. We changed some leadership positions in those people that run that, and we've been able to really be much more effective of getting them in the cash system, sharing the need. It's the first time in a long time we actually raised outside money besides coming to the city for their money. We had matching funds. We made it imperative, those on that board, that they need to raise outside money, not just come to the city for everything. So we were able to make some really good progress there. So what I'm really asking for is ICANN is working really hard. I'm going to put some data information together for y'all. I'm going to see what y'all do at homeless prevention and come on behind that, and make sure that that you are seeing the results that we're doing thanks to y'all's work and giving us some leeway to be able to do what we do and some funding. Another thing that we have started work doing at ICANN is we now have a program called Food RX, in which we have an MOU agreement with Baylor Scott & White in the community clinic. With people coming out of that community clinic or the hospital, they can be referred to Irving Cares. Irving Cares can fill them a nutritiously based order based upon whether they have gout or high blood pressure or diabetes, to where we can provide food for them that is nutritious and to help them get healthy again. The goal is to reduce the high blood pressure, diabetes, healthy rate among the low-income working poor folks, to keep them from having to go to the third busiest emergency room in Dallas County, which is at Baylor Scott & White Irving. And so we continue to do these things. And that Food RX program, in 3 months, I've already had 150 referrals come to Irving Cares in 3 months. And so what this does is Baylor Scott & White or community clinic sends a referral to us, and we have 72 hours to get back in contact with the family or the person coming out of the hospital to fill their needs. But here's the other thing. In those calls, we prevented 12 evictions because while they were in the hospital, they lost wages and they were going to get evicted. So what it does is somebody come out of the hospital, not only can we take care of them health-wise, but we can also take care of them financially if we need to while they get back on their feet. Irving has become the pilot program for this, that North Texas Food Bank is now taking out to other agencies to do this. We were just in Washington, D.C., and we talked a lot to our representatives about food. We have to look at food now as medicine and as health. It changed the way we pass out food. It can't be a bunch of just canned goods. It needs to be fresh product. If you look at our surveys over the last 18 months, it's fresh produce, fresh fruit, dairy products, and proteins. So ICANN is working to come up with a co-op idea and a program in which food pantries don't have that ability to do that. Irving Cares can provide that to them, so we're making sure everybody's getting nutritional food. So we're busy. There's a lot going on. Our numbers haven't gone down. Our numbers have leveled off coming out of HR 1 and the big, beautiful bill that everybody saw. We'll be down in Austin in April talking about SNAP and TFAP programs to make sure that our folks have access to food. But I really just wanted to let you know there's a lot going on. ICANN has completely changed. I wouldn't have gone to an ICANN meeting 2 years ago to save my life. But the way that we're working now and the way we have the right leadership and the right people around the table, including the school district, city departments, Dallas College, Irving School District, we really are starting to make inroads and really trying to take a bite out of the big old frog, which is social service needs, and get it out of the hands of the government. And I'll be happy to take any questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Kyle. Questions?
Not so much.
John?
Not so much a question. Just wanted to congratulate the whole ICANN organization for all the work you guys are doing. We really appreciate this, and your closing remark really sums up exactly, where I like to see us going. It's the city of Irving is we commit a lot of resources to helping out with these social needs, but the implementation and the way it's carried out, we don't want the city doing that. That's not our core competency, and we don't want to stick our foot in there. So we really appreciate having a partner in the nonprofits in our city, and one that's working so well, working together now. So really appreciate that. I did want to ask about the $100,000 that we allocated for the inclement weather shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy to hear that there were matching outside funds raised as well.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that did the inclement weather shelter end up requesting?
Last time I talked to April Sanderson, who runs the inclement weather shelter, and her work with Tesla, they were finishing up some of the last receipts. Mm-hmm. I didn't get an answer Sunday at church when I asked. But I'm sure, I will say this. We've done a better job of educating Life Change Housing and those involved of how to better work with Tesla and the city on the reimbursement side of it. And I do feel any time that the time that I'm using taxpayers' dollars, it should be a reimbursement program in which we're required to do the right thing and do the right paperwork, submit receipts back, it gets reviewed, then we get reimbursed, and then 6 to 8 months or a year later, the city comes in and audits us. That's the way it should be done with taxpayer dollars.
Yep, for sure.
And I appreciate the city for doing that. The answer to the question, I don't know. I can get the answer to your question. There was some stuff regarding some of those seats that Tesla had asked for more information that April, who runs Life Change Housing, including Weather Shelter, was trying to get back.
Okay.
But we've done a better job. We've done a better job of them understanding. You don't demand from the city. You work with the city.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree completely with you.
Yeah,
The reimbursement program is the way I like to see it. It drastically reduces the burden of, rooting out, waste or fraud. Like, you make sure that the dollars you're giving for these services are going to those services.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that we've started really having conversations about is, you remember Share Tank used to be around a long time ago that the chamber ran. We have been talking about as executive committee at ICANN is bringing that back so the smaller agencies can get some training that doesn't have to go through the chamber but comes through the partner agencies, because we're trying to look at ourselves kind of as the Chamber of Commerce for nonprofits, a place where you go for solutions that you need, to take some of that burden off of the chamber, let the chamber do what they need to do, let us train the people that we need to train. And I think that's the right way to go as well. Thanks for your question. Yes, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry. Old habits.
That's a problem.
Yes, Mayor Kyle. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. It's fantastic to see things being reorganized and so we can make it an efficient operation to best serve everybody in need. Obviously the homeless is an issue that is brought up a lot in the community, and you're doing tremendous work to help with that. So I do, I guess I want to keep in mind towards to that issue at some point. You're doing all you can to help with that, with the diversion, and Catholic Charities too does a lot of work with housing, and that's all part of it. There remains issues where people are still. I guess you can't help. You said you can't help every starfish. I think is how you phrase it.
Yeah, you can't save every starfish.
Yeah. So there's going to be some people that you just can't help, but reducing that as much as we possibly can, and some part of that too is law enforcement. I mean, there's criminal activity that needs to be addressed, where there's people are causing nuisances or actually engaging in criminal activity or what have you. And so I know our police department has stepped up on that, and that's part of it as well. So I guess I just want to be mindful of looking at all those different facets of it. And in your part of it, it's just tremendous what you're doing, and really want to compliment you for all that, and Catholic Charities and many helping hands and all those other parties that are involved in that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Mark, I think one of the things when it comes to the feeding is we need to have a better picture, a complete picture of what feeding is in Irving and what it looks like, who's doing what, when, and where. And then once we get that, then we can come back to y'all and to city staff and say, ICANN has put this picture together, because there's a number of feeding sites like Crossroads, which is a hub for North Texas Food Bank, is in the old Cockrell Hills site. They have some 75060 zip codes. But the problem is when North Texas Food Bank created their hub system, they disconnected and they didn't get involved in this. Well, now proof is shown that there are certain hubs that are dumping food into zip codes because they get a monetary reimbursement based on the number of pounds that go into the city. And so on the agency council, we think it's dumb if you've got an agency like Irving Cares or MetroCrest Services or Sharing Life, Good Samaritan and Garland, let them control and understand their zip codes because they're there every day. If you're sitting in Plano, you have no idea. So we're working to pull those 75060 zip codes back up underneath Irving. So it's all underneath one area, which is back under North Texas Bank, so we get a better, clear understanding of the day-to-day that's going on in the city, so there's not so much dumping. The other thing is and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I believe any feeding site that is providing food and hot food should be permitted and inspected. You wouldn't go and eat in a restaurant. You wouldn't risk your kids' lives or your grandma's lives in a restaurant that wasn't permitted or inspected. Why are we acting like we're feeding ducks in a pond by not having inspected food? And my folks we serve can't afford health insurance. First place they're going to go is to Bader Scott and White. So that cost has got to get passed somewhere. So I think there's some work that needs to be done once we totally understand have a better picture of the feeding in Irving. I got these numbers when I got them, and I had a hard time swallowing those. So we've talked about Natalie Markham, who I'm going to get with Imelda Speck, does the strategic initiatives at North Texas Food Bank, and she does all that data collection. So if y'all have a question, then Imelda and Natalie can work together to get the information that y'all need. We've been working on trying to get something in 75063 and 75038, feeding up there where we think the numbers, but it's been really tough. Challenges working with churches. But I do believe that any feeding site should be inspected and should be permitted. And I didn't get beat up for saying that, but it's okay.
David.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kyle, for doing this. One aspect, if I could have you touch on, is mental health, too. The state's finally given quite a bit of funding, and I think UT Southwestern is going to be the main benefactor in our region. So if you can kind of talk about Dallas County level and mental health level, because, a percentage of our homeless population, too, is mental health. It's just not housing or food. It's mental health services. I've been to a lot of the ICANN meetings, as you know.
Yep.
I've not seen that topic brought up a whole lot, so if you kind of touch on that.
So the phone call I just got off with Catholic Charities is the idea that we struggle on providing mental health to those folks and giving them a place and an avenue to be able to go. So we have a MOU with MetroCare, just like they do. The challenge is getting staffing from MetroCare into Irving. We have those offices in the library space that we could use. And so we've engaged with them. There's another mental health group that the school district works with that we've engaged with them, getting an MOU signed so we can start getting people situated here in locations they can get to where alternate services are provided. The police department can have access to bring people so we can start working on getting that set up and getting the help that they need. We're in the whiteboard part of designing that right now. I'm not going to wait for the county. We're going to, at ICANN and Catholic Charities and a few others, we're just going to build something and bring something forward to let y'all know this is what we're doing so we can start taking care of those. That's the challenge. Second challenge is on meds. And one of the challenges in Income Weather Shelter this year was folks coming out of the emergency room or the community clinic and not having access to meds. So what does that look like? So Bader Scott and White is really working to kind of refurbish and redo that community clinic. They're adding a second doctor. They're adding a mental health component to that. So that will be another avenue in which we will have access to mental health if we need to. But the agencies like mine and Catholic Charities who work with us on a day-to-day basis, we need to have mental health access boots on the ground all the time because we struggle with that. Police department struggles with getting it, so we're not taking people to Parkland, that sort of thing. We can't figure out and collect data and information on what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis if we're moving it to Parkland every time. That makes sense? So we are working on that. We are going to form a mental health committee with ICANN so we can really start digging in and looking at that. But yeah, that's a good point.
Any other questions? Kyle, thank you for your passion in doing this. I know when you were on the council, we were trying to figure out how to put all this together, and we were looking for a point person, and you've stepped up, and I really appreciate, bringing everybody together and working with all the nonprofits and everybody kind of putting their swords aside and sitting down and saying, how do we all provide what we need to provide for everybody and not do duplicate of process. And also, reaching out to Catholic Charities and some of the bigger agencies that they can really, they've got the dollars, they've got the knowledge, they've got the space, they've got people to really help you get this all put together. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we still have thank you. We still have a lot of work to do. I couldn't do it without the partners that I can, but I appreciate y'all as elected officials giving us some room and trusting us or trusting me to be able to help guide and get some of this done. Y'all know how to get a hold of me. I don't I appreciate Mark reaching out and wanting to sit down and have a conversation. I see David all the time. Any of y'all want to talk to me about what's going on, or please feel free to ask. I'll shoot straight with you, as you know. Let you know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yep.
Okay, that brings us to the review of the regular agenda. You're not for old time's sake going to stay and enjoy this?
Nah, my 9 years is up.
The items 2, 3, and 4 are approval of minutes. Item 5 is renaming of, is it Lynette Park to Lynette Spurlock Park, as recommended by the Lynette Park Naming Committee. Al?
May I make a comment on this?
Sure.
Mayor, I want to thank the council for supporting this effort, and most specifically my partners as part of our committee, David Fatt and Dennis Webb, even though Dennis was not able to be with us for the total time that we went through. And I did talk to him before he left for his meeting that he'll eventually get back to us. So I want to thank the two of them and the people that we did talk to and reaching out to the public. So it's one of these times that you're able to do something for both history, but also for an individual and family that has done a lot. So I want to thank you, Mayor, for also supporting us.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate everybody's work on this as well. Item number 6 is a resolution authorizing additional expenditure to Bracewell LLP in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for legal service related to the acquisition of property at 909 Hidden Ridge. Item number 7 is a resolution approving a consulting agreement with On Duty Health Texas PLLC for comprehensive lab physical assessments, fitness assessments, and ultrasound enhanced cancer screening for fire department employees in the amount not to exceed $175,000. Item number 8 is awarding a contract to Sunbelt Pool, Inc. in the amount of $589,486 for the Community Development Block Grant Program funding for the West Irving Aquatic Play Unit renovation project. Item number 9 is rejecting any and all bids related to the ITB number 035LF26F for Community Development Block Grant CDGB funding Heritage Senior Center Courtyard Renovation Project. David.
And Chris, is more of a question for you. On item number 8, I see the bids and they're 24% above the project estimate. Is this going to be something where we get into a budget season and are seeing inflation a little bit higher than we're looking at? And I know general costs are rising everywhere, but that's, whenever I see 24%, that's 24%.
Yes, it is. And at times that is offset by some of these bids do come in lower than engineers' estimates. But yes, we are, as we anticipate these projects, especially looking a year ahead, our engineers try as best they can to guesstimate what we think is going to be coming through. And they'll use the most recent data that they have. But every now and then you'll just get a pull on a particular item or on a particular source of materials that just may push something up a little bit more. But we try and budget for each one of those. But we'll have more conversation about that in the budget retreat.
Item number 10 is a resolution awarding a contract to Dallas Harmony Construction LLC in the amount of $456,510.20 for the Community Development Block Grant CDGB funding Heritage Senior Courtyard Renovation Project. This was a rebid. Items number 11 through 19 are the bids. Any questions on the bids from any of the council members? Item 20 is an ordinance amending Chapter 33B, special events of the Code of Civil and Criminal Ordinances of the City of Irving related to application and insurance for special event permits. Item number 21 is an ordinance authorizing the partial abandonment and vacation of a 15-foot private drainage easement along a portion of the property located at 3431 Finley Road, part of the San Antonio and Mexico Gulf Railroad Company Survey Abstract Number 1399, and being a portion of Lot 2R, Block A, Village Square Addition Revision, owned by NCI Country Club LLC. Item number 22 is an ordinance granting a franchise to Customers Recycling Solutions LLC for solid waste collection services beginning March 12, 2026 and ending October 2029 pursuant to Chapter 33 of the Code of the Civil and Criminal Ordinances of the City of Irving, Texas. And David.
And thank you, Mayor. Travis, on this, are we looking at, I think we talked about the fees, the 5%, maybe a 10% fee. Is that what kind of the market is right out there right now?
5% is not the highest. There are some cities with a 7%. I don't know of any that are at a 10%.
Okay.
So there might be some room to increase that. However, we're in contractual arrangements with these, so it would have to be a going forward type of deal.
Okay. Thank you.
Bet.
Any other questions? Seeing none, there's no mayor's report. We'll go ahead and go back to the regular agenda that we just finished and move on to the homeless prevention program. Your microphone
was off. Hi, Imelda Speck, Housing and Redevelopment, here to provide our recommendations for this year's award of our homeless prevention program dollars. So just as a reminder, this program was first allocated funding in August of '24 with $230 to go towards it. Funding is for organizations who would be providing support and resources to households that are at risk of homelessness to help resolve and address any of their crises causing housing instability, helping to prevent them from entering the shelter or to become unhoused. Staff developed a program framework that was pretty broad and not a specific program, so to allow organizations to be able to provide eligible services that met the overall goals of the program. So those program services include any services that address the housing instability of households, could provide food assistance, financial empowerment, workforce development, senior programs, other educational programs, and they could also be partnering with other organizations that could provide mental health services, domestic violence counseling, and or healthcare. In order to apply, applicants are required to meet several minimum qualifications. First, they have to have had at least 2 years of established experience providing these services, be a 501c3, being able to do business with the city, as well as being in good standing with the city and the state. As part of our application process, there are a number of materials that they need to submit in order for staff to be able to evaluate these applications. These material include a completed application, which includes a number of prompted questions, their operating budgets, financial documentation, organizational records, and basically other materials to help demonstrate that the organization has capacity to administer the program in dollars. Here's a reminder of what that scoring framework looks like that we use to evaluate the applications on a possible score of 100 points. Again, the scoring criteria looks at the organization's capacity, their overall program design, meeting our program framework goals, collaboration with other organizations within the community, what their scope of services are, financial management, reported outcomes and performance measures, and then their overall cost effectiveness of their program. These applications were reviewed by 4 internal city staff, both from affordable housing, community development, and planning and zoning. For this year, the RFP opened on January 12th. We held both a virtual and in-person information session to be able to answer questions about the program framework and the application. When the RFP closed on February 9th, staff started their review of these throughout the month of February, and we're here today to provide our recommendations for allocations and funding amounts, to which we get your feedback, and if approved, we'll come back with an agreement. So we received 7 applications for the homeless prevention program, and these proposals included programs that were both expansions of current programs as well as new programs for the area. All in all, just to help provide assistance, again, for our households that are at risk of homelessness. As you can see here, the total combined amount of what was requested is significantly greater than the $230 allocated to this program. We were just over $867,000 requested, leaving a gap of that $637,000. So in order to be able to allocate those funds, they were ranked based on evaluation scores. And when reviewing the results, there was a clear break of the top 3 proposals. And so because of that distinction, we are recommending funding just the top 3 organizations. With their combined funding, it was still over $230,000, so we applied a merit-based allocation model in order to fund proportionally based on their scoring. This would help to ensure that the funding reflects a share of the total funding reflects the relative strength of each proposal, that no organization received more than what was requested, and that any access over that capped amount of requests was then distributed proportionally. Using that methodology, our top 3 organizations would be Family Gateway. Based on that funding allocation, they would be funded fully at their request of $75,000. And then the remaining being split between Catholic Charities and Irving Cares. Catholic Charities at just over $82,000, and Irving Cares being provided just $72,790. In addition to looking at the program design and service impact, we always want to make sure that these programs are accessible to the residents we're trying to target. So wanted to remind you all of how they are reaching our targeted population. Catholic Charities, again, has the monthly food distributions with online application and both virtual and in-person classes. Family Gateway has their 24/7 homeless crisis hotline, and their assessment and diversion team can be both in person with some mobile outreach and then online. And then Irving Cares is our local organization with a location near downtown Irving, online applications as well as available by phone. So we are here to seek your feedback. If you're supportive of these recommended allocations, if so, we'll bring back, we're targeting the April 16th for an agreement approval, and then having those services starting in Q2 of this year.
Thank you, Melda. Al?
Emmanuel, how will we be cutting 3 checks, or will it be 1 check that'll go to what I think Kyle talked about with the group?
So the way the funding works is they'll get 50% within the first 30 days of the agreement, and then the second half is after 6 months of the program.
Okay. So there'll be an evaluation then at the
Yes,
end.
and we do a 6-month check-in to see how the funding is being utilized. They send us monthly reports to show what services are being offered, how many households they're serving, and how much they've expended to date. So it's not a reimbursement. We do provide funding up front and halfway through. That's how it was designed, but we are checking in with them to ensure money is moving.
So they'll basically be submitting invoices for services provided, and then that'll cover up, as opposed to no reimbursement, it'll be the cost of doing business, so to speak.
So
Correct?
not an invoice, but they do submit monthly reports on the expenditure of the funds provided.
Okay, thank you.
Mark?
Yep, I mean, I'd like to hear Kyle's comments. Appreciated what you just said, and then how that relates to the allocation of this $230,000. Are these organizations providing the wraparound services, which you think is important? I mean, is the 230 just so woefully inadequate that people are not being provided the help that they need? Are these charities able to raise the funds otherwise so they can come up? There's a lot of questions I have. You know, when I get this presentation, I just I don't even know necessarily. Are we doing something good here? Are we just way off base?
No, you're doing, so let me back up. The three, I'm assuming this is the three that got it last year. It's us, Catholic Charities, Family Gateway. The never ask a nonprofit if he has enough money, because we never do. Yes, it's making an impact. One of the part of that meeting today with Catholic Charities was we looked at where we're at from last year with Many Helping Hands, who helped do some of this work with Catholic Charities where the CAS officers were. Getting them diverted. Yes, we could always use more money, but it is working. The reporting back is thorough. The RFP process is thorough. We're required to have other funds for the program. So if we don't get selected as an applicant, we talk about how we can go ahead and continue to maintain services. Would I like to have a whole bunch of more money? Yeah, but so would the police department. So you got to kind of pick your poison. But it's working. What it's also allowed us to do as agencies is take what the city, because the city has skin in the games, and use that as leverage with Mercury One, Dallas Morning News, some veterans folks to get some additional funding to help run the programs. It's allowed us to have a uniform approach as to how we work with each individual we deal with. So it's not a shotgun approach. It's Many Helping Hands does this, Catholic Charities, Family Gateway, and us, where we talk to each other all the time, to where we talk about what's needed, where we're missing. It is making an impact. I think it's a very good program. Al, to your point, the review process that we go through, the application process is extremely thorough. It requires us to answer a lot of questions, turn in a lot of documentation, meet stuff on time. It's not willy-nilly. Allows the city to collect demographic data that a lot of times we don't have. The success of diversion rates, the success of preventing evictions. It also allows us to give us a framework where we can do follow-up calls with the agencies that are in the program, 30, 60, 90-day calls to check and make sure where they're at. So it's working. Another year of the program, the way it's set up now, will give us another set of data points as we're another year into this program. So I really appreciate it. It is different than CDBG. You know, there are some cities that are given $750,000, $800,000 to programs like this. So we're grateful for what we've got. What it's really been is a place setter for us to be able to have some funds that we can use, get some people who we normally would not have had maybe in the city, like Catholic Charities at the level they're at, or Family Gateway, help Many Helping Hands get to where they need to be and pull them up to be able to start to be a unified, one database, points to start helping to reduce and solve the problems that we're facing when it comes to homelessness and eviction preventions.
Kyle, let me, because you and I have talked a little bit about this in the past. One of the areas that I think the focus, that there may be other entities out there that can be part of this program, I think, in the future. Case in point, Salvation Army. Another case in point, veterans organizations. And is there a way to do two things? Not only try to throw the scoping out there and networking to bring more in, because I think the more that we have operating in this, it does a lot of things to really help so that we don't have mission creep. What we have is a robust operation going. Yep. And the second is, I think it's really, first of all, I thank you for doing this, as always. You always are putting and leaning forward. Then where do we take this? What's your thoughts? Because I know you have them.
There is, to me, sitting in those seats, is we have started collecting veterans information, Irving Cares, for the last 2 years, looking to see who comes to the 29,000 to knock on our front door, who's a veteran, who's not. Our numbers have been really flat and stable across there. It hasn't been. We do have some veteran organizations that we talk to and work with that we refer to. You know, Montrell Williams has a good program that we refer to. He works a lot with veterans. Where this needs to go is I think where we're at right now. I think you need at least maybe another 2 years to look at it, and then council decides if they want to ratchet up. The problem is once you start to ratchet up in social services, it's very hard to ratchet down. And then when you do, that creates a lot of pain points and consternation with people. I think the way that we're doing it, I think the way that staff is working with us and holding us accountable for the funds and the success level that we're having and working with Anya Hill, who administers this program, is really good and it needs to continue. I don't know if more funding is the answer. It's a portion of it, but it shouldn't be the total sum. And my always concern is, my history in Irving is there are some agencies that worry that the government should be the total sum, and that's not right. We should be raising our own unrestricted dollars to be able to take care of the folks that we need to, without having to rely so much on the entity in the backs of the taxpayer. Because I know there are a ton of needs in the city. That's why I think it's important that the city continues to ask for, do you have matching funds? Can you prove you've raised matching funds the year before, which is a great question to ask anybody that's doing a grant when it comes to taxpayer dollars.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Economic Development, and especially Imelda. You know, this is not an easy task as to really trying to fit what the needs are at the same time. And I mean this, I really thank Kyle for what he's been doing, but not only that, the mainstay of it. So, you know, let's hope that this thing can get started and then see how the outreach, and maybe we can also help with some of the private sector entities that might be able to match funds as well. So there are just a lot of thoughts that I have on this. Thank you.
John, and then back to Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Imelda, for the presentation. So when we when we get an application in here, and I see the ranking here on that recommended table, when we get an application in, we score them, and you're working with them. Are you sharing that score with the applicant and kind of giving them feedback on this is why the ranking is where it is?
We can do that after we award. We can't do that right
Okay.
now, but
Okay.
after, and we are happy to do that. We've had a couple reach out from last year, and so we gave them some feedback as to that point. So we're happy to provide that.
Okay. And I would appreciate that in maybe a read file once. I assume you probably can't also can't share
You
that
wait
with
till
us
award, but yes.
until
yes.
the award. But in a read file after that's all done, I'd appreciate that as well.
Yes, sir.
But all right, thank you.
Mark.
I have another question for Kyle. So this methodology, it takes the applicants and we select 3. And so there's 4 that don't receive anything. And so do you have any thoughts about that methodology?
Personally, as a president and CEO,
I know you got a conflict there, so I apologize.
no, I don't have a conflict with any of this.
Okay.
At Irving Cares, the fewer people who get awarded, the more money I get, so I'm happier that way. The application process is extremely thorough. There are things that and I haven't seen who all applied. That's something that we will probably look at ICANN when we get that information and see if there's a way in which we can help them. It may be they don't have audited financials. They don't have some questions about their board. They don't have some capacity. They haven't, I don't know until I get a chance to kind of sit down and look who those agencies are. I will tell you there are some of them may not have have never been in the city before. I don't know. So the city doesn't have a history of working with them. When you start to put more spoons in the soup, you can mess up the soup. We got a really good thing going right now with what we've got for the second year of this program. I think give this group one more year to look at it, and then I know that Imelda and them work really hard to evaluate everybody and try to be as fair as possible across the board. So I think right now we got a good thing. Don't try to mess it up. Don't put another spoon in the broth, and let us come back and see if our numbers get better. See if there's things where we see some scaling up in what we're doing, some better success rates, and what's that look like. But I think right now it's working really, really good, and I wouldn't want to get a bunch of fingers in the pie and screw the pie up. That makes sense.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions? I think, Mel, we're ready to rock and roll. Bring it back to us.
Thank you.
Kyle, thank you again.
Y'all really did want me to stay, didn't you? Now, I appreciate all of y'all and all the work that you've done. For this program, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, and my hat goes off to Imelda and her staff for creating and coming up with something that I think is good and fair, and I think we're starting to see some things. The things y'all are going to have to work on, and you're going to start hearing me about this, is how in the hell do we work with these extended stay hotels? That is something that y'all are going to have to look at. Because I can tell you in history with Irving Cares, we have paid for people to stay in the extended stays. They cash our checks, they put them on the street. So y'all are gonna have to spend some time, and you're gonna start hearing from me about how extended stays, how they operate, how they treat our residents. And are there some of these things we can just go in and tear down and start anew? Because there's some of these things that need to go away. There's some that work really, really well with us. They're able to work with us. But these extended stays that are out there are brutal on the residents there. And I guarantee you, 95% of the people in those extended stays, if they had a chance to get out and leave, they would leave. So that's my last soapbox.
Okay, next item is, sure?
Maura Gast, Convention and Visitors Bureau. One of the studies we do have currently underway is a citywide hotel assessment, and particularly looking at some of the older corridors of hotels that we have and those that are at risk of getting their flags lowered without sufficient reinvestment. And we've had informal conversations over the past year and a half with the leadership at the Catholic Housing Initiative, which has taken some older, tired hotel properties in Dallas and converted them into wraparound services and targeted programming like what we're trying to do. So we are hopeful that at the end of that process, we may have a list of properties that it would be a benefit for the property owner to perhaps sell the property and to transition it into a different use, particularly those that are very accessible to bus lines.
Mayor.
Yeah, Al.
Yeah, Maura, do you have a good handle on how many are kind of on the precipice of being in that position, or are you looking to try to see how that?
We're going to look at it citywide, sir, and I'll see the first draft of that report tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, and we've seen some of the stories, not necessarily extended stay, but like certain hotels have been in the news a lot for criminal activity going on there. And there are things that we can do as a city. They could be declared nuisances, and we can shut them down. So I don't know if we have a program, a database with the police where or Shane, where we monitor all these things so that we are keeping track of we're meeting those criteria.
Can we bring that topic back? Because
Yes, sir.
I think, talking about the hotels and the hotels being used for homeless services, I think that's a separate issue, so we need to bring that back.
Okay. Maura, when you get that study, I think that working with the police and everybody else, we'll put something together and bring it back to the council. David.
Mayor, real quick, thank you. We also put the $100,000 to the inclement weather shelter. This is not part of this program. Is that something we can? We need a budget for next year, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's baked, this program is baked into your base budget. The $100,000 for the inclement weather shelter is baked into the base budget, as well as the $230,000 for the diversion program is also baked into your base budget as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, now we'll talk about the short-term rental regulations.
Mayor and Council, this is back on your agenda. We had a good conversation a couple weeks ago. There were a lot of questions. I think we got to many of those questions, but I know there were some that we didn't get to. Certainly, some of those were legal in nature, and I would defer to the city attorney on how to answer those. But really, this is just back to answer any additional questions the council may have regarding the proposals that were presented. And Shane has all the answers.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Shane Diller, your Code Enforcement Director. Thanks for having me back to continue this discussion. Staff did, after the last meeting, begin work on the direction we were given, and both Jocelyn's team and my team are working on drafts of ordinances and various items there. But we did kind of run out of time last meeting with discussions of questions you had. I think a number of those were legal advice questions. So I'm available if you have come back with any questions that were unanswered last time or any new questions. I don't have a new presentation, but I do have the presentation I gave before if there's anything in there that you specifically wanted to cover. And then at some point when you want to transition to the legal advice component, we'll turn it over to KO and the team.
David, you had some thoughts, correct?
Yeah, and I think we'll probably cover that in legal, not just short-term rentals, but the split pads, similar to what our speakers have been telling us on looking at what we can do. I'll just make a blank statement that living in a single-family neighborhood, you don't want to live next to a hotel, you don't want to live next to an apartment building. And we've got to solve this problem, and it might be, Mark, you're here, Wiggins? You might be gone. But this is something we're going to have to also work at the state legislature on all the rules and regulations and really let them know what's going on in our single-family neighborhoods, because it's going to be constant on us of what we can do, what we can't do. And I'm sure when we get the legal advice, there's going to be a lot of state legislative things. Austin had lawsuits, Dallas had lawsuits, but it's going to be another thing on our legislative bucket list to go down there and really let them know what we're doing and get our citizens involved, the ones that come talk to us. We're going to have to put a concerted effort of getting our communities to write to our legislative people and tell them what's going on. So I'll have a lot more questions when we go to executive session on this.
Philip.
Just as a update in terms of timing, we're already working on an ordinance relative to the short-term rental regulations that were endorsed last time. There was also a zoning component, which is going to take a little bit more time. I think just in generally, the timing we're looking at that is probably sending out notices in June and then having P&Z and council action in July. That's what we're looking at right now. There's probably around 60,000 notices to property owners that we'll need to send out. It's a pretty big undertaking. We want to make sure we do it right. So that just in terms of when you'll see ordinances back, the one on short-term rentals, the regulations and the registration requirements will be sooner, but the zoning one will probably be June or July.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Al.
Hey, Philip, one of the things that we always are focused on is the impact of Senate Bill 840. And now that we look at maybe this may have implications if some of the opportunities for some of the developers to change certain one of the structures, whether it's a retail or a light manufacturing or a warehouse, whatever, and to go to that level, or is it? And I guess my real question is, does 840 impact also what we're trying to do with the short-term rentals?
I don't think it has a direct impact. I think the pressure at the legislature we've seen in past sessions is to preempt cities' ability to regulate short-term rentals. So I think if we're going to look at something, it's probably both offense and defense relative to short-term rentals, but I don't think 840 is related to this issue.
Great.
Okay.
Chris.
Mayor, if I-
Chris.
As a follow-up, Al, I think there's a nexus in terms of the policy making that we're seeing in Austin relative to the affordability discussion. I think 840 was driven, at least for some of the legislators down there, trying to work on that affordability crisis. And short-term rentals is also seen by some down there as an affordability issue as well. So although 840 doesn't directly, I think, tie to STRs, the principles behind both legislative efforts for some of those legislators are going to be on that affordability side.
Mark.
Well, the short-term rentals is not permanent housing, so it's just, there's a different economic interest there in Austin.
Yeah, it's providing secondary income to a homeowner is probably the issue that there would be interest in.
Yeah, and there still are some of those affordability issues because people will hop from place to place.
Okay, we can discuss this also in executive session. I think we've gone through all our regular agenda, and the next item on our agenda is our executive session. So, KO, why don't you just read us in for all the 11 or 12 items that we have?
Yes, sir, happy to do that. The time is 2:11. The Irving City Council will convene into a closed executive session. This is to deliberate, it's a deliberation on real property, economic development negotiations, legal advice, and personnel, subject to Open Meetings Act Sections 551.072, 551.087, 551.071, and 551.074. So it's all the items under executive session, plus the short-term rental discussion.
So, do you all want to take the economic development ones first, and then the people that are here for that? Do we have people here for that? Do you know? Why don't we take that one first, and then we can follow up on the other two?